This is out of Beirut, where an Israeli drone strike killed a senior Hamas official right there. And this is a live look that you're taking a look at right here. As investigators are continuing to go through the scene, you can see a group of individuals gathering at the very base of that building. And right now, we do want to bring in Ken Gray, who is a senior lecturer at University of New Haven and retired FBI special agent. Ken, thank you so much for joining us today.
Certainly glad to be with you.
All right, it does look like we lost that shot, but I do want to go back because we do have another shot that we're taking a look at right now. So I'm going to pop that in as people can take a look at this breaking news unfolding right here. But Ken, as we take a look at this scene right here, and again, this is breaking news, so this is a very fluid situation. At this point in time, what can you tell us?
So apparently the IDF has done a drone strike against a Hamas office in southern Beirut. 6 people were reported to be killed, to include the deputy commander by the name of Saleh al-Arouri. You know, this is part of their campaign of attacking Hamas leadership wherever they may be. And so you do see with this attack, the IDF shifting over from wide-scale destruction attacks. And so this is in keeping with their shifting phase from the second phase of their war into their third phase.
Okay, so again, and we have been seeing the reports of Israel pulling back the troops. What can you tell us about that? Because does that go hand in hand?
Yes, it does. So I was put under a lot of pressure to try to change their strategy, to try to stop the large-scale destruction of the Gaza Strip, and also the large-scale killing of Palestinians who are not members of Hamas, and instead do a much more targeted approach against Hamas members themselves. To this effect, a number of the IDF troops were being taken out of Gaza Strip, some being sent to Gaza City from down at the southern part of Gaza Strip, but some are also being rotated back out of the area, back into the economy, because remember, these are all people who normally had jobs and had been taken out of their jobs to go and fight this war. And so the Israeli economy is suffering from this, and so they needed to rotate people back in and get their economy going again as quickly as possible. So this was always going to happen at some point. But additionally, by shifting towards targeting Hamas leadership members, they go more towards their goal of wiping out Hamas. And so this is a good step in the right direction. Unfortunately, 22,000, the Gaza Health Ministry reported that 200 people died in the last 24 hours there in the Gaza Strip. 22,000 total have died during this conflict since October 7th in the Gaza Strip. And consequently, the death toll continues to rise. So it's very necessary for the IDF and for Israel to shift their focus from wide-scale destruction over to very targeted type attacks.
This is such a large-scale war, and there are so many different facets to it. I do want to go back to what you said, because again, Israel has never wavered in its announcement that yes, it will eliminate Hamas. So when it comes to this drone strike killing a senior Hamas leader, how significant is this?
So 2 things stand out in my mind. One is that this is an attack using drones, so it shows in this conflict and also in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, you see drones becoming a primary weapon system being used on all sides. And so the Houthis have been using Iranian-supplied drones to attack commercial ships there in the Red Sea also. So you see the importance of drones in a new battlefield like this. But additionally, you also see that the shift over here to making an attack in another country This is not just an exchange of shells with Hezbollah. This is attacking Hamas in another country. Now, it's in Lebanon, it's nearby, and Lebanon does not have the ability really to stop Israel from doing this type of attack. They would rely upon Hezbollah to do that, and so far the Hezbollah has just exchanged munitions with Israel. But nonetheless, this is an attack by Israel into another country to attack Hamas. There are other Hamas offices in the area in nearby countries, and so perhaps we will see the expansion of this type of attack and maybe attack Hamas offices in Syria, attack Hamas offices in Qatar. We know that some of the senior leadership members of Hamas are in Qatar, but right now that's the only way of communicating with Hamas as far as the hostages go. So that phase may wait a little bit while longer.
And Ken, I know that we've spoken with this before, and you answered a lot of this question. My next question was going to be, is there an inevitable expansion of this war? Again, this is very strategic on the part of Israel, targeting using a drone. And as you mentioned, this is now in Lebanon. You also mentioned that Hamas is in other countries. You mentioned Qatar, you mentioned Syria. So can we expect in the coming days, in the coming months, possibly other such drone strikes in other countries, specifically targeting Hamas leaders?
So I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say for sure, but I would guess that this is probably the new type of model that we're looking at with this moving into a third phase of the war, is that as part of the targeting of Hamas leadership members, if they are outside of the Gaza Strip, then Israel will pursue them wherever they are. So yes, I think that that's quite possible that we'll be seeing that.
And you mentioned that with Israel pulling back the troops and shifting it, it was a major impact on the country's economy with so many soldiers on the ground. So is this just the next phase of the war? They scale back, they shift back the troops, but now they're ramping up these targeted drone strikes.
Yeah, I think so. Now, recall that the UN Security Council called for a pause. We don't see that pause happening. We see intensive fighting still going on throughout the Gaza Strip. Now we're seeing drone strikes outside of Israel entirely. And so we're not really seeing a pause, and we're also seeing the humanitarian disaster that is ongoing there in the Gaza Strip also still continuing on. There are no safe zones for the Palestinians to go to without the possibility of being involved in the conflict.
And I do want to talk about the growing humanitarian crisis, because, again, this is also a human aspect. I'm pulling up some information again. This is some breaking news, but I also wanted to ask you this. South Africa launching on Friday a case against Israel, saying that the magnitude of death, destruction, and humanitarian crisis in Gaza meets the threshold of genocide under international law. And I did want to get your thoughts on this, because, again, we are continuing to see the death toll rising. We are continuing to see the crisis growing. So I was interested in your perspective on South Africa's actions and whether that has any significance.
So there was going to be somebody that was going to call for this at some point. As I have pointed out numerous times, that the death toll continues to rise, and that the Israelis will continue conducting their war until they are told to stop by outside forces. This is part of that outside forces telling them to stop, is the accusation of genocide in the World Court. This will go before the World Court next Thursday, where South Africa will make their case against Israel. At that time, they're at The Hague. And so we will see whether or not the UN will take any actions or condemn Israel for their actions, accuse them of conducting genocide. Is it genocide, or is it just simply the response to being attacked? That's the big question. But as the death toll rises, it becomes harder and harder to justify continuing these efforts, despite not meeting the goal of wiping out Hamas.
So many new developments, again, as we continue to follow this breaking news of an Israeli drone strike killing a senior Hamas official. Ken, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would want to talk about in terms of this specific topic?
You know, I would keep my eye there on the Red Sea again with the involvement of the Houthis, because I'm still very concerned about this becoming more of a regional conflict instead of just Israel inside the Gaza Strip. We see exchanges of weapons exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah, but there's still the real possibility of this still becoming a regional conflict of getting outside the borders of Israel and the Gaza Strip. So I'm still concerned about that, and the likely place for that to happen is there with the Houthis out of Yemen. Also, there's a lot of different players in the Red Sea there, of countries trying to protect commercial shipping. It may not be the United States that ends up attacking the Houthis there in Yemen, but it's still a real possibility that at some point they're going to strike against the Houthis and this become a regional conflict.
Something that everyone will be watching. All right, Ken Gray with the University of New Haven, thank you as always for joining us as we break down this breaking news of an Israeli drone strike killing a senior Hamas official.